And if there is no vacancy, you cannot be promoted. But the print press is different. It's wide, it's open. So I made the decision to jump from broadcast journalism to print. So my training made it easy for me to be able to say, do these things. In addition to that, as I said, so when I got to the height in Triumph, managing director, editor-in-chief, and I was chosen to go to the smelter in Ikwadabasi as head of, the transition was not difficult for me. Not only because of the training, because I realized, as I said, that thing I said earlier, the greatest asset you have as a PR man, how many journalists can you reach? It's very important. And I had been president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. And in addition to that, I had taught journalism pro bono, mass commission. And I will tell you this, that they say the teacher's reward is in heaven. No, it's also present on earth here. Because throughout those years, there was no newspaper house that I would go to looking for a favor. In fact, before I ask, as I entered the newsroom, the most likely thing, somebody will pop up and say, welcome, sir. You taught me. You will have forgotten that you had done that for him. As you go to BUK now, professor, head of mass communication, I will be his student now because he was my student. They have about a dozen PhDs in mass comm BUK that I had myself taught. So wherever you go, you get people willing to assist you. And I tell you, that kind of support, no amount of money can buy you. You know, that kind of stuff. So it was easy for me to.
When you enrolled your MSc, in your book, you mentioned that at a point you had to leave that MSc and just go back to your work. Until later on, when another set came, and now call you back to come and complete the MSc. Can you just take us back to that scenario?
Okay, I hope there's no journalist who is writing this story here, so I don't get into trouble. Because as a matter of fact, I had because they will assign you your professor. You don't make the choice. And I was assigned somebody who had studied in Egypt. He did his PhD in Egypt. And I think he came to like Arab tea. So when I finished writing exams, I went back to my job, and then assumption was that I would just be doing my project and then consulting, from my work. I said I had written my entire project, the entire chapters, and not one, even the introductory part had not been returned to me by my prof. Each time I travel, and I don't know, because we are old men, some of you here don't know what it was to travel with Nigeria Airways then. You probably have to drive from Kano to Kaduna to take a flight, Nigeria Airways Kaduna to Enugu, or Enugu to Lagos, Kano. And then cancellations were frequent, no apologies. Or you go there at 6 a.m. in the morning, by the time they open, they will have sold the tickets behind the counter. You go there, your professor will ask you, did you bring my northern tea? That was his interest. And then you come back, nothing, all of my chapters. And I said some great things about one they called Professor Charles Okibo. He just came to Kano and said, met me, and because we're a bit close. I hadn't done any of his courses anyway, but he was a very jovial person. And he said, so how about your project? I said, I've abandoned it. He said, why? I said, because I'm not making progress. My assumption was that I had written all my 5-6 chapters, and I had not got anyone returned to me. He said, give it to me. In 2 days that he was in Kano, he read my work, and he said, when I go back to Nsukka, we'll set up a defense for you. You know what? By the time they did this at the department, all of them honorable people, really, they said, what do you want? You want, it's not doctorate degree that you want. It's a project for masters. Go and slice this into 2. half of my work, they say throw it away. Half is enough. So you see the effort that I had made. If you're not lucky to meet somebody who is a good man, they can torture you because higher degree is political, whether you like it or not. If they don't like you, even in Europe, you can't get it if they don't like you. So that's how it was. And that's as he is deceased now. But after all that, I apologized to him also because when he came to the defense, my own defense, he raised the point. He said, this is the first time in this department that a student is being brought to defend his project without the knowledge of his own supervisor. And the head of department, everyone, they knew, of course, it was a conspiracy to save me. And they said, sorry, Garba apologized to him. Why didn't you keep him in the loop? Go back to him, report to him, and whatever corrections that you make from what we have told you, take it to him. So that's how we made up. But he's no more now, he's gone. I mean,
since after leaving office, I do sit back and reflect on 8 years to Buhari, considering the fact that majority of Nigerians believe it's better infrastructure while we fail woefully in security and even economy. Have we ever sit down and reflect? You carry the same assessment?
No, I cannot. Believe in what is being said, and I'm glad they have passed Buhari on infrastructure, but even on security and the economy. Let me say this: what we have this Tinubu administration is an APC administration. People just want to draw lines that ought not to be there. This thing about fuel subsidy removal is there in the law. Go and read the PIA. It didn't come from the moon. The law that was promulgated, which was signed by President Muhammadu Buhari, is there. They said by June, no more subsidy will be issued for this. And no, not June. I'm trying to remember the timeline. June, it was June, eh? No, but yeah. Anyway, what I want to say is that if I remember well, it should have come earlier. And I know that the party and our leaders in the party were concerned that we will lose the election if that policy had been put in place. And I have no doubt in my mind that Buhari acted correctly, not because he had wished that it would continue, but because this is something that happens in all countries of the world. You choose the moment when you introduce it. President Tinubu came with a huge momentum behind him on day one. That is the credibility you needed to come to office with. Otherwise, if it had come earlier, it would have been doubtful if we had done that election. So, the people about talking about economy, whether we hadn't done. Again, it is what do you prioritize? With Buhari, he had a background of, I don't want to call it social conscience, so that people will say I'm saying others who came after him lack social conscience. But he had an attachment that was extraordinary to the poor, to the people at the foot of the ladder. And that's why he invented, of course, along with this vice president, the social investment program, which we had, which was the first of its type in the entire continent. And we fed the country with enough food. When people were speculating that the bodies will be picked on the streets of Africa, Nigeria would lose men and women arising from COVID because other nations had closed their borders to export. Even India, they were not selling rice. Thailand, we didn't go hungry. So it depends on what values people want to promote. In essence, Buhari did his best, and the leadership is a continuum. No one person can solve all of the problems of one country at a go. So you do your bit, and the others who come after you, and then they build on what you have done, and they do that. We had met a country then in terms of security with the Boko Haram having declared a republic within Nigerian territory. They had an Islamic republic with the flag of their own, with the currency, with the system of taxation, and they had taken 17 of the 27 local governments of Borno State, 5 in Yobe, 3 in Borno in Adamawa State, and all of that nonsense was quashed under Muhammadu Buhari. Boko Haram was just reduced to the fringe areas of the border, the so-called tumbuns that they call around Lake Chad. And don't forget that when he came, we had inherited a situation where even arms were not being sold to the country on account of some nonsense they called the Leahy Law, they called the Americans. Obama, when we met Obama, he said to Buhari, look, I have only little time left. Take advantage of my presence. Get whatever you can. Until he left, not one aircraft did he sell to us on account of those problems. It is this Trump that is now, that just said, so you said you want to buy these jets, the Super Tucanos, he said yes. Can you pay within a month? 400 and about 30 or so million US dollars. Well, he said yes. We paid and we are given. So, and much of the infrastructure, I'm saying that the government is a continuum. Don't draw imaginary lines. All of the supplies that are coming in, I'm not saying that Tinubu is not buying, but if you check records, and because journalism in Nigeria, sometimes we do it lazily. We don't do tiebacks. By the time you go to Turkey, you sign order for drones and the fighter helicopters, Italy helicopters, and all of that. It will take 5-6 years for them to be manufactured and developed in your country. But it's in the norm in our politics that when you go, people don't remember you. You say, we're happy for them, and therefore enjoy what is coming in and do more.
if you are still in a big camp or maybe broader opposition, how will you have objectively rate Buhari's
I was not in opposition, and I will not be in opposition. See, let me say, you know, when Buhari came, Nigerians had given up on leadership completely. They had no faith in leaders in the country. Because whoever came, they did nothing other than to steal your money. And the Nigerians said, we are tired of this and we want somebody who will not touch our money. To our pride today, nobody, all this nonsense that is going on, nobody will say, I took money, bribe money to Buhari. I have said in some of these things in my book. Buhari brought diamonds, diamond wristwatch. He said, I can't wear this. So he elevated the standard of morality, of conduct. And it is for others to either uphold it or to bring it down. But he did his best for the country. And I don't believe he failed in any respect. And history will be kind to him.
Now, Nigerians believe the Buhari camp has started with camp, and it's obvious the Buhari people are no longer with him.
How many of them?
Majority.
No, that's not.
Okay. Amici was busy of Buhari plus attempting years. The opposition now.
1.
Attorney General.
Malamiko. 2. Okay.
There are many.
No, we had a cabinet of 50.
But the problem is, even if they did not come out to mention that they are not with him, they are no longer participating in his administration.
Let me say this to you. See, me, I was spokesman with the Laolu. We were there for 8 years. If you are not greedy, what more do you want? Are you the only Nigerian? There are 200 million people in this country. I said I have been confronted, and I'm saying to you in all honesty, and I hope there is no journalist who is reporting. I said, I said to Buhari, I said, some of your former ministers are angry with you. He said, for what? Because they said, Tinubu asked you, give us names of people who will continue as ministers in your government. And Buhari said to him, no, it's your government. Choose people you think will help you. He didn't give him one name. I said, some of the ministers, they confessed to me, say, you see our man? You see our man? He was asked to bring, instead of him to present. And some people, you've been minister 8 years. Did it ever happen in this country? Even 2 years, even spokesman. Haven't they changed spokesman since they came here? We were there 8 years. So what more do you want to, what more can you prove? You had your time. So please, let's not go that way. Yes, there are people who are not happy and they are not, the expectations have not been met. So be it. It will happen in all societies. However, I want to say that Buhari, until he died, he was essentially APC. Yes, and I know some of these people you mentioned. Some of them said they will start issuing press statements countering what I said, that Buhari was APC. This was Buhari 1 year. I said, if you do it, I will counter you also, because I was not frivolous. Buhari would confess to me, I've been given 2 terms by this political party. I cannot betray it. So, but people can make their own choices and they can go where they want to go.
Okay, recently, Dr. Mole launched a book. From that book, the account of Buhari's immediate family was uncomplimentary. Like we have tarnished all what he has lived for. What can you say about that?
Well, 2 things. One, I don't know whether you have read the book, but I have not summoned the courage to read the book. Because from the snippets that were issued, I was present when it was launched. And when they began to say these are the things that the books contained, I bought 2 copies and I still have read that book. And you said family. If it is ownership, more than all of us who served Buhari in his cabinet, members of his family are the primary owners of the Buhari, whether it is the stature or brand or persona. So if they have a different opinion from what the public holds of the head of their family, who am I to say they are wrong? So they make their choices.
So are you going to counter anything from
that? Absolutely no. No reason to do so. Absolutely no.
Because Buhari can be surrounded and controlled by those Kabawi.
That's why I said I'm too weak to read the book. Maybe people who read it can comment on it, but I don't have the strength to read it.
I think the last question, do you see yourself as a loyal aide to your principal? And was there any price, say, points that you had to pay for being that loyal?
Oh, sure. I have said it that when you work in the kind of work that we did, you have no option but to be 100% loyal. And what happened with Atiku is there in the book. When trouble came, Atiku didn't go to Kuje prison. I was the one who went to Kuje prison. You see? So, and it's documented. It's arising from, those things arose from the fact that I stood up with him and for him. And so it was with Buhari. We were there from the beginning. We could have jettisoned him and to follow other people when they were leaving. I didn't do that. We stayed to the very end, and when he died, we still stayed with him, even when you know that some people were going around lobby for appointment here and there. Some of us thought there was no point. We stood with him until he died. And I think that as far as I'm concerned, I fulfilled my obligation to him. He's no more, and work ended.
Audience now, anybody have any questions? Guys, yes. Thank you. And my name is
Yes, sir.
And two questions. One, I must first comment Buhari for the indelible memory in the sense that he was, he don't have it in history that he was not a corrupt someone that was straight. However, we know that it in the sense that he wasn't concerned with what was happening in that situation in terms of people having to loot a lot of funds during this time. Right? I don't know how you're going to give it, you know, that.
Okay.
Right? Or what you're going to do on that. Second thing, during the President Goodluck Jonathan's administration, also rumors have it that Buhari connect with the terrorist which is Boko Haram just for him to come into position and cross country between the period of time and President Goodluck Jonathan got sick, so that the situation of the economy will be stable and it could use that opportunity for the opposition party to come in place. So I'd like to comment on both questions. Thank you.
Okay. Now let me say to you that it is not correct to say Buhari wasn't conversant with what was going on around him. And please, so nobody should link what I'm saying with what is contained in this book that he just mentioned, because I said I have read the book. Buhari was the most thorough boss that I've ever had in my life. Because Buhari, I said, look, in my conversation with Professor Gambari, I don't know how many professors Gambari had trained in this country and all over the world. Professor Gambari would do a memo, forward the memo for all the documents that go to the president. And his instruction to his staff every day was, be careful, don't embarrass me. I'm a professor. Because this is a president who dots the I's and crosses the T's. And I said a while ago, maybe you were with us or you are not. I said, Governor Fashola had a memo that missed a page number. It was returned to him. So this was the president we had, very thorough. In fact, my first encounter with him, we were doing a press conference in the campaign office. And I asked one of my assistants as a director of media to do a draft for me. And I took it for granted that he had done the right things. The president, the candidate then, asked to see the script before the press conference. And if you see how Buhari shredded my script, I hadn't written it, my assistant wrote it. And everyone was seated. Bola Tinubu, Baba Akamde, all the leaders of the party were in the room. And the journalists downstairs were waiting for the press conference to hold. It wasn't proceeded. When I approached them, I stood before them. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I take responsibility for delaying this press conference because I'm working with a boss who has a higher standard than I have. So Buhari was very thorough. He read everything. The civil servants, they will attachment upon attachment upon attachment in order to justify wrongdoing. Buhari will read everything and return with his comments. So that is as far as it's concerned. There was fraud before Buhari, there was fraud in Buhari's time, there is fraud now, and there will be fraud tomorrow. Because I don't know how they say this in English, but we have a Hausa proverb who says that the thief, the one who wants your asset, who wants to steal from you, is always smarter than you. What am I saying? That people will always orchestrate schemes to defraud. When they are caught, you know, what happens after the accord determines whether a leader is a serious person or is not a serious person. And in the case of Muhammadu Buhari, you had seen how the president of the Nigerian Senate was prosecuted. The secretary to the government, the highest, the third person in the executive order of things, was removed from office. Intelligence chiefs, people of high standing that ordinarily in the past could not have been touched. So if it was known to him, Buhari would not spare. I am a witness, a family member, somebody who was raped in his house, joined some crooks and defrauded Port Harcourt refinery. And the boy was put in Port Harcourt prison. It got to his ear that some members of the family were making efforts to free that family member. He called them and said, "What is your business? Never you get involved." And he has said it repeatedly. This thing that people are doing, I'm not going to leave Daura to come and be a witness to assist anybody here. And until he died, I've seen, look, a minister who had gone to Buhari would left with the tears because they thought Buhari would backdate approval after he had left office. So please, let's not go there. So the second question is on whether he had, that is the unkindest question anybody could say. Do you know that Boko Haram bombed Buhari in Kaduna in 2000? They bombed his car. And I don't know whether I don't have the video now, but he didn't suffer immediate injury, but his personal aides, they had blood all over them. So how can a friend of Boko Haram be in there? And what did he do? The first day when he was inaugurated, he said, the command and control center should move to Maiduguri. And that is when we began to see the real effect of the war against Boko Haram. And by the way, Boko Haram didn't start with Buhari. It was present under Obasanjo and Eradua and Goodluck Jonathan. It was aggravated under Goodluck Jonathan. And then Buhari subdued them. I'm being honest with you. He subdued Boko Haram. Yes, today things are not as bad as they were. But the truth is that, okay, there's still some more work to do. However, Boko Haram has been minimized essentially from Buhari's time to what we are seeing today. He was never the one to collaborate and connive with Boko Haram. That was no Buhari we had.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ibrahim Garba. I have one big question. Many Nigerians have high hopes when your government came into power, especially the promises to tackle corruption and drive development. What factors contributed to the gap between expectations and outcomes? And what lessons can current leaders learn? Second question, sir. What message of hope can you share with Nigerians about their future and role in shaping the country's development?
Okay. Two things. Let me say that people don't look at what we achieved. This is why this book and more books need to be written about what Buhari did while in office. Do you know that all of these schemes that followed after Buhari had been written into law, whether it is the TIN number or BVN or whistleblower, or all of these things, they were just projected as policies, but they were never actioned. And Buhari came and he had the will and he had the capacity to implement. Under Buhari, it was no longer possible for you. Say if you take 5 million from public treasury, anywhere in the country as to federal government money, it will be seen and noted that you have done that. All of the trials that are going on, all these Dasuki things, do you know that they brought 2 billion US dollars and they put it on the table and then they shared it So Buhari ended grand corruption. That's what is called grand corruption. A petty corruption is there, will substitute, because nobody will guarantee you that when you leave this place, policeman will not stop you and you are forced to bring out some naira from your pocket. That's not the kind of thing that the president can do overnight. However, we have chalked in a lot of progress in dealing with matters of corruption, starting with leadership by example. Because the problem for the most part in the country is that people say one thing and then they do a different thing. And I've said the last word on that question. I keep saying that the President Buhari, was also a victim of the crisis of expectation. People assume that he will, in one day, with a wave of the hand, all the problems of the country were. No president, not Tinubu, nobody can solve all the problems of the country. But you do your own and then you do incrementally. Do you know one of the first things we did when you are campaigning for office anyway, and I hope you run one day, the kind of people who will come around you will amaze you, because they will be printing pamphlets and promising people to. They said there's one document which says 100 things in 100 days. And they said it was signed by Governor Fahimi as the director of policy in the campaign office. And when I disowned it from the presidency, they almost cut my neck. But the truth is that you commit somebody to things that he doesn't even know about without briefing him. So this is why we had that situation. As for young people, it's their own country. This is why, and I said it a while ago, and this is Buhari's position. When they were, as I said, they were swarming him and saying, give us, talk to Tinubu to give you. He said, why? You are 8 years minister. What more do you want? New people should come. That's how it should be. So I think it's a matter of their readiness to come and succeed those who are there. And it can happen. Look at what happened with these young men, two young men in Senegal. And then from nowhere, it's as if they dropped from the sky. And that's why when you look at what these opposition people are doing, you think they're just not serious. Go bring like Senegal did. People who have not been tested. Young people are tired of seeing some pieces around. So this is it.
I think you made mention a lot about loyalty.
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask, when should a spokesman draw the line between being loyal to a president and the public interest?
There shouldn't be that time. Yeah, that time should not come. And pray, if you are there, you are not challenged to make the choice. Otherwise, as I said from the beginning, never you side with the public against your boss. Stay with him. Otherwise, tell him, I don't want your job. Let me go home.
Thank you very much. Good evening, my name is Abdullah. Let me start by congratulating you adding the body of knowledge that you write in this book. My question is an intriguing one because it will dive into management of spaces. You will run the office as spokesperson to the president with another high-profile communication. So how were you able to balance the personality? You have it. You have a big one. You have a big personality. You can live with that. So how were you able to suppress the ego drive to the point that there was never a time of rancor between you and senior officials?
Thank you. Let me say, essentially, Femi is a very good person. And we had known one another for a very long time. Femi's family was known to me before we came to office. My family was known to Femi before we came to office. And from day one, we made the commitment that this job will not come in between us. How do we not fight? It is because we think that the interest of the president, and this is going back to what our friend just said about loyalty, the president's interest supersedes our own personal interests. So whatever it is that we are doing, will it help the president? If it will help the president, we will do it. If it will not help the president, we will not do it. And that's why we are able. And communication is also a factor. When you talk to, open up to each other, talk about everything. I think that helps the relationship.
Thank you very much. My name is
The governor's son?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's interesting.
So before my question is, I want to commend your leadership, your professionalism, and your loyalty to late President Muhammad Buhari.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And my question is, sir, can you tell us, maybe in summary, the major problems you encountered, not you, like your government encountered in achieving its trajectory? And what sort of advice can you offer to young professionals that are intended to join politics at the moment? Thank you.
Okay. Well, the major problems that that confronted the Buhari administration were not essentially made by Buhari himself. You know that when we came in newly, oil which supplied the money with which this country is run was sabotaged to the point that this country was doing less than 500,000 barrels a day. And this coincided with the time when even the prices of oil in the global market had gone down to as low as, in fact, below the production rate, below the technical cost of producing a barrel of oil in Nigeria. Yet, I hope one day people will talk about the miracles Buhari did, because he was still doing infrastructure, he was doing railway, he was doing the airports, he was doing roads, all this Onitsha bridge and all of that. So that's as far as that is concerned. And then shortly after, oil was coming back, and then Corona crisis came, leading to the lockdown of the global economy, not just and it took a lot of innovation for Nigeria to have come out of that COVID-induced recession. It was the second now we are facing. COVID-induced recession, we were number 2 globally to have come out of that COVID-induced. And thank to all of the efforts, our Vice President Oshibanjo leading the economic team and all of the efforts that they did. So COVID slowed down not just Nigeria. The only economy that didn't go into recession then was China, globally. Everyone was in a minus in terms of development, but we came out as quickly as possibly can. So these are matters that the oil sabotage in the Delta region intensified, and we knew it was political then. So these were the major challenges that we had. The second question is, what advice do I have for him? Do as this young man, Basiru of Senegal. Yeah, because you see, his partner, what is the name of the vice president, the prime minister now? He was the leader of the movement. Sonko was in detention. He was in jail. He was released only 2 weeks to the election. And because he was incapable of running, so he called Basiru, his own secretary, and said, you go around as president. And the people were convinced that these are the guys who had the answer. And then they won. And then now the president who won now brought this man who had just been released from prison and made him the prime minister and head of government. And they are running their country very well now. So it's not a matter, are you waiting for 8-year-old grandfathers to say, we are tired, let's keep power. Now you young people line up here and take it. They won't do that. It's too comfortable for them to surrender. Okay. And we hear Johannes as well, no matter what.
Congratulations for having the privilege to work on that.
Thank you so much.
Controversial.
Mm.
Now, perhaps you may have interacted with Buhari and asked this question. What will he have done different after he went through this election? These are the what you have got different from the president.
Okay, so let me say that yes, we had several moments of talking to him. He had more time and to reflect. But I assure you that Buhari, until he left us, he had never looked back with regret as to what he did in office, because his belief, his conviction was that whatever he did in office was driven by the nation's best interest. And so therefore there were no regrets over just anything. And he was very sympathetic to Tinubu. Poor Tinubu, that's what he would say. Poor Tinubu, he has to contend with this, he has to contend with that. That's the way he saw it. He had done his own part, he has closed his own chapter and had moved on. And he didn't want to be bothered. What would I have done differently? I've served for 8 years in the villa. Anything that one could possibly have done, I had done it. And I'm happy with my exit. I'm not undergoing trial for anything. I didn't take money that didn't belong to me. So I'm happy with myself. And that's just it. Okay, Johannes.
Thank you very much, Mallam. And I don't know where to say congratulations on your 8 years. So I looked at your book from both two perspectives, the academic perspective and also the historical perspective. So let me ask the academic question and then the historical one. Okay, I'm Johannes Tobi Ojoala, and I would say I'm one of his proteges.
He's a big man. Don't mind him.
So, Mallam, in your book, you speak about the president being a board chairman, or being a Ronald Reagan, where he prepared to be the chair and allow his executives to take their executive decisions. And in that relationship also with you, were there times where you took a decision out of your initiative and or at the end of the day, when it went settled, you found out that it's in a way got the disapproval of the president? And if that ever happened, how did you manage it? Okay, this is another question. This is personal. Did you ever at any point in time see a side of Buhari that was untoward, maybe angry about the situation? What was his emotions like? And then thirdly, I think this is now, yes, the history part. Were there things that you deliberately left out from this book? That it's hearing that there may be, or they were either going to be controversial, or you felt that you wanted to take them home with you. And if they were, would you reveal them to us? Or would you go for another book? Thank you, sir.
Okay, the first question was
on if at any point.
okay, whether there were decisions that one had taken
and the president
was displeased with. So the positions we held, and I believe it was much the same with the Laulu who were together in the oppositions that we were positions of trust. And what that meant is that there were times when you could, even without talking with your boss, you could read his mind, you could read his body language and act as appropriate. Because in this business of news, you know, timeliness and the speed they are very important, because if the Super Eagles will win gold from African Nations Cup, and it takes 48 hours without the president saying, Nigerians will say they don't have a president. So these are the kind of things that we're talking about. So there are things that you do, and then sometimes you get his attention. You know, all the time that you can get his attention, and then when it is necessitated that something must be said, you just go ahead and say it, exercising judgment. Did President ever disagree with you? Yes, he has disagreed with me. I'll give you this example. There was a day we went to Ghana, ECOWAS meeting. He had a written script, and I was given the draft, the speech in the aircraft. I read it, and the president was to say that no West African head of state must go for third term. ECOWAS should fight that. And if Nigeria speaks in that manner, you know that it meant really that ECOWAS must do it. At that time, Togo was changing the constitution, he was going for third term. This Sissoko, who was overthrown, was contemplating third term. Cote d'Ivoire, Ouattara. So some of these meetings you attend, it will be like UN and so on. They will give you a number of seats inside the hall. And they said maybe 1 + 4, 1 + 3, maybe foreign minister, your ambassador. It's not always that you have the chance to be in the room. So in this meeting, it was in Niamey, where in the president's, Niger Republic president's guest house, and the president was over there. So by the time our people came back, I asked our Minister of Defense, I said, did President Buhari read his speech? He said, yes, he did. So apparently what happened was that President Muhammad Buhari paraphrased his text. He didn't talk about that issue. So he just talked to the script. He didn't read the verbatim. And meanwhile, I had issued a statement saying Buhari had denounced West African leaders seeking third term. And what happened? Ouattara summoned Nigerian ambassador and complained that this was an attack on him, and that Buhari should know this. So, but Buhari is not he doesn't rush into judgment. He was not happy that this thing had happened, but he listened to me, because your minister confirmed to me that you spoke at the event, and to have spoken at that meeting meant that you read your script, because I've been given advance copy. And so that was the end of the story. But he showed anger, but it was all over. But the thing about him was that Buhari would never rebuke you in public. Throughout those 8 years, there was no time that we did something that he didn't like and I called you out in public. So that was the nature of his person. Now, what are his emotions? Very difficult to detect. See, a military general like that is hardened. I'm telling you, there are times when you have to say, Mr. President, can you hold that baby? Not that he didn't care, but some of us feel it more immediately than he did. So he had been to the war, and throughout the years of the civil war, he didn't take annual leave, not once, quite unlike others who would even feign injury and illness around from the war front. So he was a hardened general, and you never see his weakness. No, I haven't seen it. I've never seen Buhari shed tears or anything, no. And then lastly, then, there were things that I left out in the book. I assure you that I've left out more things than I've written. I'm telling you, I've written more. And do I regret? Sometimes I feel regret. And in any case, honestly speaking, there are also some parts of the book that I don't know the miracle that made them to disappear. Through editing, proofreading, I had written myself. I've said this account because you wanted to illustrate with examples. And then by the time the book was out and we were going to launch it, I said, so we're going to do promo. We'll say this, we'll do this to promote the book. They say it's not in the book now. I said, wow. So that's how it is. But to be honest with you, there are things also, if one had said, or one would say them, maybe they will start a civil war in this country. I'm telling you. So you don't say everything. You don't say it all. Wow.
After these people that are bought the book, you can come over for an autograph and maybe pictures.
The lady, last lady, can you do that for?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Good evening, sir, and congratulations to you, particularly that you are speaking to young people,
Okay.
people that potentially are coming behind you.
And enter the villa.
And my question is even in that line, to use you almost as a mirror to my generation. In terms of our leadership qualities, I would like to ask you, what kind of traits do you see in us that perhaps we need to discontinue if we are to achieve some of the feats that you have been fortunate to privilege and achieve? What do we need to start doing? What do we need to stop doing? And perhaps what are the things that we're doing already that we can continue doing?
Okay. In addition to all the things your grandmother told you, I think that humility and doggedness are important. Arrogance at all costs should be avoided, because let me not drag you into politics in Kano, because we have a particular politician in Kano who will always be leader. He will always lead, and he will never be led. So this is the problem. I think that the people will lower their heads and calm down and obey. I think this is it. I'm not saying people should be submissive even when they are being trampled upon. That's not the whole idea. But there are still ways you can achieve set goals and objectives. You can still fight unjust causes without, breaking. You can walk on eggs without breaking them. That's my point. So please be humble and be willing to follow others. I think that's my own idea. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Mallam, for sharing this insight with us. Thank you very much. Please join me in appreciating. For those that don't know my name, I'm Mallam. So for those that bought the book, if you want an autograph, you can come over and maybe pictures.
I will do pictures before I go. Jonas, you don't have your signed copy?
I don't have the signed copy.
How about?